celle de la cohésion sociale, de l'équilibre écologique, du dialogue et de la paix. Merci.
Now I'd like to give the floor to Nobel Peace Prize Mikhail Gorbachev, President of the Summit.
Очень приятно, что наши партнеры в этом случае, и прежде всего премьер-министр Берлина, господин Бургай, откликнулся и проявил желание, мы это приветствуем и рассматриваем как желание сотрудничать и дальше. И вот такой перспективный принцип 20-летий падение стены, а если шире взглянуть, как это в мире сейчас смотрят и подводят это к 89 года, что произошло после 89 года, то мы, благодаря сотрудничеству с мэром Берлина, как бы составляем важную часть.
An important part of these festivities, of these celebrations, and I'm very pleased to mention this, to mention that we are beginning the work of this forum on a wonderful day when Germany, all Europeans and the world are celebrating this very important date, the 20th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. Walls fall. There are many walls, but this was a special kind of wall. This was a wall that symbolized the division of the German nation, the division of Europe, the division of the world. This was a symbol of the Cold War. And in order to achieve the solution of this problem, a lot of efforts had to be made by several generations. Those who want to oversimplify things, to say that this happened as a kind of manna from heaven that came to Germany, that came to Europe and to the world as manna from heaven, the fall of the world in 1989, are mistaken, and they are mistaken in a big way. After the end of World War II, there was a big struggle for how to build a new Europe. There was a big debate also about the future of Germany after World War II, about the future of Europe after World War II. This was a protracted and difficult struggle. I remember what was happening during those years because I was at that time of an age when people are interested, when people take a lot of interest in what kind of world surrounds them and the kind of world in which they live. Right after the war, the idea was that there should be a united, democratic, denazified Germany. That unfortunately did not happen. As a result, there were two zones, then West Germany was established, and East Germany as a response to that. This, I think, was a reflection of the whole confrontation between the countries that had been victorious in World War II. One would have hoped that those countries would cooperate, that they, after having defeated Nazism, that they would open up to the Europeans the prospects for peaceful life, to the Europeans that had been suffering so much during the war, that had lost millions of their brothers and sisters in the war, that lost their loved ones, that lost a great deal and were living in a ruined Europe, and particularly in a ruined Germany and a ruined Soviet Union. And one might think that that would have been an argument for cooperation, but post-war cooperation did not happen, and therefore efforts by many generations of German politicians and of citizens who continued to, the citizens of Germany who continued to hope for unification of their country. Let's recall the role played by Ostpolitik of Willy Brandt. Let us pay tribute to what was happening both in the west of Germany and in the GDR. It was those two countries that revived the German nation after all the upheavals that preceded it. All of this we need to understand in order to understand what happened in 1989. During these past few days, I recalled my visits to Germany before the fall of the wall. I recalled my visit during the celebration of the 40th anniversary of the GDR. It was a mirror reflecting all the contradictions and the dangers of that situation, the situation that had continued for years here in the center of Europe. I saw that big torch parade in which the representatives of all the 28 regions of East Germany participated, mostly young people, and some of them a little older, good, healthy, confident young men and women who were watching what was happening in the world and who were saying that they wanted Germany to be united. What was happening around them was very important. There were democratic reforms in the Soviet Union, reforms aimed at replacing the totalitarian regime with a democratic model, moving toward freedom, democracy, openness to other countries, following reforms in the Soviet Union parallel to reforms in the Soviet Union, and sometimes even earlier than the reforms started in the Soviet Union. And that's why yesterday I think it was right that President Walesa was the first person who started the fall of those dominoes. In that way we paid tribute to solidarity, because all that change was happening in neighboring countries, in Poland and Czechoslovakia, in Hungary, and all the other countries. And when in my new role I was first meeting with the Warsaw Pact leaders, I said to them, you know, we have been saying for years that we are friends, that we want to cooperate and that our cooperation should be on an equal basis, but that was not the fact until now. So I say I want all of these principles to become a reality. And I say, we will not interfere in your affairs. You will have to develop your own policies and your own decisions and be responsible to your peoples. This is what I said from the start. And without going too far into history, I must say, never did we interfere in their affairs, in the affairs of our neighbors. Those who remember that time know that this was very important. We put an end to one tool of the Cold War, and that is the Brezhnev Doctrine. People felt that everywhere, and people took advantage of that opportunity in order to move faster toward freedom, toward independence. And so when relations between the Soviet Union and the United States were normalized, when those relations became friendly, when they were put on the basis of trust that we developed, we started a major program of arms reduction in Europe and in the world. We started to move toward the elimination of nuclear weapons. We also re-established a normal relationship between the Soviet Union and China that had been hostile for 30 years. We also changed things in our own country, giving people a chance to choose independently, to elect independently. For the first time in the 1,000 years of Russian history, we held free elections. Everyone was able to vote freely for the candidate of their choice, instead of the previous situation when there was always just one candidate who ran. People went to vote, and on the ballots there were 4, 5, 7, 20 candidates. That was a big change, and together with glasnost, that created the kind of confidence among the people, the kind of freedom from fear that enabled them to really become citizens, to act as citizens. So what was happening at the same time in the countries of Central and Eastern Europe has been called velvet revolutions. They were not really always velvet revolutions. There were some barbs there too. But anyway, that was a difficult process of our friends in those countries moving toward freedom and real democracy. And the Germans in East Germany and in West Germany had been like an island, a separated country that wanted to unite. And the Germans showed that they were committed to democracy. The Germans showed that they had learned the lessons of the war, the lessons of the tragedy. And this was properly appreciated in the world. This showed that we really were dealing with a great nation. So all of that came together in 1989. The Germans were justified in raising the issue of reunification. I was on a visit to the Federal Republic of Germany in 1989, the visit that was occurring in a very different environment when we were building a new relationship with the Federal Republic. When Chancellor Kohl and I were asked about unification, we said that it probably would happen in the 21st century. But unification started just a few months later in the same year, 1989, which meant that the political process was lagging behind the march of freedom in Germany. It was not so easy to reach an agreement by all countries, by all the countries that had been victors in